Policy briefs set out a policy issue and make recommendations as to how the issue can be addressed. They are generally aimed at government policymakers and think tanks. If your research has a policy focus, a policy brief may be valuable. But how do you write an effective policy brief? The first step is to know your audience. Are you writing for policymakers, think tanks, all-party parliamentary groups, or relevant organisations? Once you know your audience, it's then important to remember that all of these groups consist of very busy people, so the briefing needs to be clear and concise, and it also needs to show why the topic is relevant to them. Why should they care? This is why the structure of the briefing is so important. We recommend policy briefs should be around 800 words in length and follow this simple structure. We have a Word template available on our website and in the description to help keep this structure in mind. First, we need a cover page of roughly 200 words. This is a brief summary of the policy or practice issue, highlighting the key findings and implications of the research as bullet points. You should include your author biography here. Then we want to set the findings in context. This is normally about 100 words, roughly 2 short paragraphs, and it's there to explain why your research is important and how it fits into the big picture. What are the uncertainties in current decision-making and how does your work fill the gaps? It can be helpful to link this to recent events or crises. Next, we want to present the main findings from the study that are relevant to the issue in question. This gives you a chance to develop the points on the cover page, and we normally recommend about 250 words as bullet points here. Finally, we want to explain the implications for policy or practice from your research. For example, what are the potential social benefits, costs, service improvements or efficiencies, or equity impacts? What should policymakers or practitioners be taking into consideration? Again, this is about 250 words as bullet points, and we'll be expanding on the points on the cover page. Now that you have an overview of the content of the policy brief, here are some general tips. 1. Make sure that the briefing is clear right from the start about how your research relates to policy. 2. Don't assume prior knowledge. Minimize jargon and acronyms where possible. 3. Use the imperative verb in the policy recommendations section. For example, instead of "the requirement for parents to make upfront payments for childcare costs needs to be removed," make it "remove the requirement." This will be more direct and also more impactful. 4. Everyone loves a good fact or statistic, so make sure to include these where you can so that policymakers can make use of them. There is no need to talk in detail about methods, but you can say something about the study if it helps the reader to understand the weight of the evidence. 5. Use figures, charts, or diagrams where suitable to help your briefing be more eye-catching and appealing. This also allows you to convey complex information in a small space and a short time. If you are writing a policy brief for a Bristol University Press or Policy Press title, we will need you to supply a list of contacts to send it to. We will be happy to send the briefing to these, though if you have any personal links you may wish to contact them yourself. If you follow these tips and use our suggested structure, you will have an effective policy brief to send out in no time at all.